Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Grant Professionals Association's webinar. This webinar is a free tour of GrantStation, hosted by GPA, but provided by GrantStation. GrantStation is a benefit for GPA members. It's completely for free, included in your GPA membership. I will show you the details on how to access your GrantStation subscription through the GPA website, and then we'll get started on the tour of GrantStation, and that's provided by Julia Ward, who works for GrantStation. So this webinar is basically a way for you to learn more about how to make GrantStation work for you and your organization. It's an overview tour of GrantStation, and just to make sure that you're getting the most out of your membership and to see GrantStation in action. Plus, you'll get to see the new feature, your GS dashboard, where you can prepare, save, organize, and research anything in GrantStation for you. So let's get started. Give me just a minute to share my screen. Okay, so here you will see your member login screen. So if you go to the Grant Professional Association's website, which is grantprofessionals.org, you'll see a sign in box, or you can go up here and click sign in. So you will click the sign in area and make sure you have your right login. And it'll take you here. So this is your basic back end of your website or of your account for GPA. This is where you can update your information or anything with GPA. So you'll see this quick links area here in the menu bar. So if you click that, then you can click GrantStation Access. So this is one of the ways for you to get logged in. So quick links, GrantStation Access, this is the quickest way, which is what we tell everybody, but I'll show you one other way in case you're on the front end of the website. But if you click GrantStation Access, it'll get you logged in here. So see, it says welcome Kelly Romero, which is my name. So it'll say welcome with your name on here. And this is where you'll do all of your searching and working with GrantStation, where Julia will walk you through. So let me show you one other way. If you go to click on this GPA logo here, it takes you to the front end of the website. So if you go to membership here, there's a drop down where it says access member benefits. This is where you'll get all of your member benefits, all of the discount codes that you can find, all of the access links, anything that has to do with your membership is under this membership tab. When you're logged in, if you're not logged in, it'll be completely different because it's not in the member firewall. So once you're logged in, you will go to membership, access member benefits. And then there's GrantStation Access here as well. So if you click that, it takes you to this page where you'll click on this button, and it takes you to the screen completely logged in to your GrantStation account. This is the only way that you can get into GrantStation with those two ways that I showed you. You can't use your GPA login on the actual GrantStation website because it's through a single sign-on with our website that you're able to access it. So that's how you get in. We'll let Julia Ward with GrantStation begin her presentation. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm really glad that you're here. Like Kelly mentioned, my name is Julia Ward. I am the administrative and program specialist at GrantStation. I'm actually joining you today from my plant room in North Carolina. You can see my cactuses are over here wintering inside this room with me. But our GrantStation staff is actually located and spread out throughout the world. We have a couple of people in Europe, and we still have several people that live in Alaska, where we started. rural Arizona, just all over the US, and like I said, a couple of people in Europe as well. So we have our customer service team is pretty much up and running all the time. um, but I am just so glad that we could partner with GPA today to bring you this tour. And I just want to be sure to let you all know that it's okay to ask questions along the way. There is a lot to learn. This website is really chock full of resources. So I definitely want you all to put your questions in the chat as we go, in case so I don't move on and then you forget what you're asking about. So we'll go like that. So anyway, a lot of you folks here are maybe familiar with GrantStation, maybe not, but we're going to just do a whole overview of what the site has to offer, as well as a demonstration and some best practices for for using the query features in the databases. So let me just tell you a bit about GrantStation. GrantStation was started in Alaska by our founder Cynthia Adams, and she started this organization in rural Alaska, in a cabin that didn't have plumbing or anything. It's just kind of a dream of hers to be able to provide this platform that could help nonprofits and anyone that was seeking grants, because she wanted to help the most different, do the most good, really. So we serve so many different kinds of grant seekers. But we consider the website to really be kind of a set of tools and resources that help these organizations identify and secure those grant dollars. So these databases that we have are curated by our research team, and they're filled with current grant opportunities. And we also provide a lot of tutorials on grant seeking and grant writing, as well for strategy, as well as for grant writing. And all of our profiles in GrantStation, both from the government and from private organizations, are what we call in the game, which means that they are open profiles, and that means that they are grant makers that are currently accepting applications, as opposed to there are a lot of organizations like ours out there that will post grant makers that may or may not be accepting applications at the time. And so we really want to be saving you time and making sure that your time is spent in the most efficient way possible, so that when you're using the databases, that it's giving you returns that you can really actually act on right now. So we really think of ourselves as pre-screeners, kind of your backroom research team. And yeah, we're excited to be here for that. So let me just describe what you're seeing in front of you. What we consider the most important part of this homepage is really this top bar with the orange text. We call these are key features. There's find grant makers, build strategy, write proposals, public resources, and partners. You would find GPA actually in here with our partners, but public resources, I'll just describe a little bit about what you can find here, and go on back to the left. But in the public resources section, you'll find our weekly GrantStation Insider, and that focuses on 10 different opportunities for US organizations. Looking at our current issue, you can see that the breakdown is COVID-19 related funding first, and then national, regional, and federal. And scrolling down here, you'll get a complete breakdown of each of these, as well as links to find out more and a brief summary. We also have our GrantStation International Insider, which features 16 international funding opportunities, as well as some specific sections covering Canadian opportunities. And you might think to yourself, well, I'm based in the US, I don't need to look at international opportunities, but there are plenty of grant makers out there that are outside the US that are willing to give in the US. So it's always worth taking a look. And lastly, we have our online education resources. We have other live webinars, on-demand learning, as well as some tutorial tools like Pathfinder, as well as Trend Track. Pathfinder in particular is a really neat tool that it gives you a quiz, a very short quiz at the very beginning, and determines your experience level and then recommends tutorials based on that. So I think that's a really neat tool that you don't have to wade through and figure out where to start, because it kind of tells you. But let's move on to write proposals. Here you'll find step-by-step tutorials that you can use to write compelling grant proposals, as well as download samples of winning grant proposals. There are sections here that are specific to different parts of the grant writing. So like the letter of inquiry here, there's a whole tutorial about just writing the letter of inquiry. But you can also go over here to award-winning proposals and find a list of grants that have won their funding and just read what they did right. This is actually a competition that we run every other year. So I'll show you this. This page is pretty cool. This is actually, I want to scroll back here to the entire list. This is from 2019, our last contest. We're running another one this fall, but in 2019, we asked for anyone in the community, not just GrantStation members, but anyone to submit their proposals that won funding, and then we had outside judges judge the quality of that grant writing and sort them and award the best ones. So for instance, this person, Christy Albertson, she won as the best out of about 200 entries, and the rest are runners up. But it's really neat to be able to actually look in here and read some very stellar grant writing and learn from the best. Any questions so far? Okay, I don't see any in the chat.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any right now.
Okay, we'll move on to build strategy. And this is more tutorials, but it's from a different perspective. We think there's really sort of two really big categories when it comes to learning about grant seeking. One is the grant writing itself, but the other is the strategy behind when to submit proposals, how to prioritize and categorize different opportunities, and how to plan out your calendar for the year, because they do have different funding cycles. So the grant seeking calendar and creating time are both tutorials about how to do that. R3 revenue review and report is actually a new feature that we have that I think is pretty cool. It is a calculator that makes recommendations for you based on your different types of revenue that you've had throughout the year or that you expect to have. And it generates some pretty pie charts from that, and also generates suggestions about where to go from here. So I'm just going to quickly show you a little bit about what this looks like. Wait, 12. And just do like a very short made up numbers here. Scrolling. Okay, and so you can run this column, or both of them. You don't have to do both, but I'm going to. Okay, and so this is the summary of what I just input into that calculator. And my first number was huge, so my pie chart is a little blue, but you get the idea. And you can actually print these out if it's helpful to you here, or you can download them by pressing print and changing the destination from your printer to save it as a PDF or print to PDF. I learned that recently. That's a trick that I did not know until recently. But here are the recommendations below your pie charts for how to move forward with the types of funding that you've been receiving. So local businesses, community foundations, these are items that I put numbers into the calculator. So you'll see like way up here, I didn't put numbers in every single one of these revenue types. I only put numbers in local businesses, community foundations, and government funding. And so down here, the recommendations are only for those three things, if that makes sense. And these are the recommendations for the rest of the ones that I input. So that's a new feature that we're excited about. Moving on, let's go back to the home page really quickly before I go into the databases, because there is a lot to see here. But if we scroll down the front page towards the bottom, we can see our funding alerts, national, local, and Canadian, and international as well. And these change every single week. And these are curated examples of profiles that are very current and something that we really wanted to highlight each week is a different one. So let me just open one of these so you can see what one of these profiles looks like, because when we get into databases, each of the profiles will look very similar to this. So you'll see on the left-hand side, there's kind of a narrative here that we can use detail to describe the organization and some of their requirements. There's some procedures here for the application, a scope, contact information, financial information, eligibility requirements, deadlines, and also when this was last updated. So it's always nice to see that the Grantmaker the grant profiles are up to date. These get updated at least once a year. Many of them get updated more because of multiple funding cycles in each year. And a feature I also wanted to point out here is the member insights. Here on the right-hand side, there is a share your feedback button. And when you click on it, a little pop-up survey appears because we would like to know people's experiences with these different grant makers. So if you have applied to Our Planet, Our Purpose before in the last 3 years, we would really like to know about your experience applying to them. How difficult was it to apply with them, or easy? How long did it take you, etc. And we just really feel that having that information for others in this community will really help them and provide information for them to be able to have a better or more successful grant with each of these organizations. and it's anonymous too. So there's that. Whenever there is feedback available to see, there will be a third button down here, but no one has actually provided feedback on this particular profile. But you would see it here. This says see what others have to say. So we are very hopeful for the community being able to support each other in this way, in a way that helps each other by sharing their experiences. But let's continue on. And let's talk about some of these searches. At this point, I think we can go into the Find Grantmakers tab. And prior to starting any search or any project, I always go into this preparation section here. It's the first part of Find Grantmakers. In this overview, you'll see the project description worksheet. When you click on it, it's just a Word document download, but it's a really neat template that you can use to help stay organized and also use it as a tool for collaboration with your team. It can help you really get started on thinking about the different sections of the grant as you are searching. And it's also important to take notes as you go and see and write down what kind of searches have worked for you with each project. So that's the types of things that you might want to keep track of in this worksheet. But the part of this preview section or preparation section that I use every time is this search terms area. Because we really want our members to familiarize themselves with these search terms before even going into the database, because this area includes terminology that is also used by the grant makers and also put into the grant maker profiles. So you don't want to spend a bunch of time jumping into the database and searching for a synonym of something that it means the same thing as what the grant maker is talking about, but the term is slightly different, and then you go away thinking, oh man, there isn't any funding for that. But actually, it's better to start out here. So you can use a keyword to describe your project, and then you'll be able to find out kind of what is available in the databases. So in my first example, I'm just going to use homelessness and as my project example. And this list has been shortened to just one category, which is social services and issues. And homelessness is the subtopic. And there are also other subtopics here, like homeless shelters, transitional housing, etc. So I would be writing all of these things down in my worksheet so that when I take this knowledge with me to the databases, that I'm searching for relevant things. And just going back here to the full search terms, it's better to use the keywords here because you can scroll and scroll and scroll. There are a lot to go from for all these different categories that are in the databases, but just a very specific term will end up shortening that list quite a bit. So let's continue on now that we have this knowledge with us. Let's continue on into the databases. I'm going to go over three today. We have our U.S. Charitable, U.S. Federal, and U.S. State Government. There's three others too that I won't go over, but we also have Canadian Charitable, Canadian Government, and International as well. But I'm on the State Government page right now. And here you'll see we have a list of all 50 states as well as DC. And I am going to go ahead and click inside one of these so you'll see what this looks like. This database is less interactive than the next two databases that I'm going to show you, but it is a page of live hyperlinks that are all centralized in one area for you to be able to use to find funding in state agencies. So each of these, for North Carolina, where I am, is a link to a different state agency's page that has to do with financial assistance or funding for grants. So these are always kept up to date, but they are more or less a list of links that take you outside of GrantStation's website, but they are very centralized for you to have in one place. But moving on to the US federal side, this database is where we'll start using those keywords. And on the left-hand side here, these are instructions for how to navigate and use the queries. But essentially on the right-hand side here, this is where you'll be changing different things to manipulate this database. And your strategy is to really go for as broad as possible and then narrow it down, shave it down more and more and more until there's about 10 to 15 results for a nice afternoon of research to be able to eyeball those results. So I'm going to use for my keyword, I will use homelessness and see what happens in the federal side. So you can see my criteria has added homelessness now, and there are 16 results. Also, another way to narrow this down further is to expand the eligible applicants. You can say that it has to be for a nonprofit, and that takes it down to 9. And you may or may not, you don't have to indicate that you're a nonprofit if you are a nonprofit. It's just that funders who only give to nonprofits are they're more likely to give to a nonprofit versus a funder that gives to both nonprofits and otherwise, or 501c3s and otherwise. You'd have more competition basically, but that's not a reason to not have it. It's just if you want to narrow yourself down even more, it's a good thing to have. So that's one other. 9 is a really good place to eyeball. Like I said, if I'm imagining just having an afternoon of browsing what there is available. And you can actually save this criteria here. You can save your search. So I can call this homelessness project and save my criteria. And up here, there's a little green ribbon that appears that says this has been saved on my dashboard, which I will go over soon. But it's a good thing to be able to save your work as you go, especially if you've found a search that maybe you have like 5 or 6 criteria here on the right hand side, and you don't want to have to remember all of that and come back the next day and say, what did I put in there to get those 9 results? So that's a good reason to save it. Another good reason is that these databases change frequently. If a funding cycle ends and they're not currently accepting applications, then we will take that opportunity down. And then when it opens again, then we'll put it back up. So, when I save this and I look back at it later tomorrow, it may be if when whenever this one closes after March 2nd, then these results would be 8 results. On the other hand, too, we're adding new opportunities all the time as well. So if you've found a search that really works for you, it's a good idea to go back and check regularly to see if those results have changed. Moving on, we're going to go to the US Charitable side. And it looks very similar to the federal side. I will say there is a reason that I showed you the federal side first. And the reason is when you are doing research, we encourage you to check and be knowledgeable about what's available on the federal side first before going into the charitable side to look, because federal grants are they are harder to receive than charitable grants, and there's less of them. So if whenever you're applying to the charitable side, it is convincing to them when you tell them that you know what's out there on the federal side, so that they feel like you've done your homework and that you're knowledgeable about that. Especially if at the time there isn't much federal funding out there for exactly your project, then the charitable side knows that they are going to be your option. So I think I had one question before I move on to talking about how to use the charitable database. It says, if you take them down, but we are wanting to look for upcoming cycles, how do we develop a calendar a year out, and how does that work? So let's see. The grants usually have a very long cycle, so they will let you know quite a bit ahead of time. It will be, what I'm saying is the cycle is open for quite a long time. And there's also information on the Grantmaker page about the frequency of those funding cycles. So you'll be able to know and expect when those cycles are closing and opening back up. But let's talk about how to use the charitable side. It's very similar with changing this right-hand area, but there are a couple more options. So now we can indicate the state that we want. I'm going to choose North Carolina. And you'll notice that my list of states went away. But if I click here, this is actually a button, and it will expand and choose the state. So if I want to do another state as well, I can click that as well. And then on the other hand too, if I want to get rid of one of these criteria, I just click this little minus sign here and it'll take it away. I'm also going to click national because I want to search for Grantmakers that are giving in North Carolina specifically, but also just everywhere in the US. That makes my search broadest, starting with 1,470 results. And then we will select more criteria to narrow that down. Opening my areas of interest, I will click on social services and issues because that was the big category that had homelessness as our example. And here is homelessness. That brings us down to 78. And let's say if I wanted something else, I also wanted to point out here, if you're not sure what something really entails, you can click this icon and it will give a little definition here about how we define that. But maybe if I So right now we're at 78 results. If I choose something else as well, it will bring that down. So just to reiterate, when you're adding more and more criteria, it'll bring it down. So the logic of that is it has to be homelessness and poverty that is mentioned in their grant, instead of an or. So each of these inside this Grantmaker profile have to mention both of those keywords. Let's continue. There's a couple more things that we can use to really target the population that we're serving. I'm looking at the word target population, and that's all I can think of. But so if you are an organization that is really wanting to serve like the refugee population, then that is a target that you will want to include as well as the areas of interest. So that has brought us down to just 3 results. There are a couple other areas that you might want if you still had more than 3 results. There's advocacy, types of support like advocacy and capacity building, things that like emergency funds that you would end up using the grant for. Those are also great ways to narrow down the search. And you'll notice here too that by now a lot of these words have been grayed out because we only have 3 results right now. That means that these ones in black are still, they're being mentioned in those 3 results. So when I can't even click on awards and prizes because they are not part of those 3 results that we have left, but advocacy is. Moving down, you can also indicate the type of grant maker that you want this to be coming from. If it's a giving circle, if it's important to you that it's religious or a foundation or trust, you can also indicate that. And lastly, location if you want to get even more specific. But let me take one of these off here. Okay, so one of the last things I wanted to mention here is that this geographic focus is something that you might want to pay attention to. We have the geographic scope, which has to either mention all of the USA or North Carolina, because I have these 2 selected. And so this one in particular is something that interests me because this says there's the scope in North Carolina and Tennessee, but the focus is primarily Winston-Salem and Clarksville and Memphis, Tennessee. So me, for instance, I live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and I would have a better chance of winning a grant being from Winston-Salem because that's who they primarily serve. However, they technically serve all of North Carolina and all of Tennessee. But like the focus says, they would rather provide funding in these particular areas. So you'll definitely want to just be keeping a watch out when you have something like 78 results and you're eyeballing it. Take a look at this geographic focus to see if your county even is listed here. And I'll save this as well. Homelessness in NC charitable side. And it is saved. Another way that I know which database I'm in, like if I walked away from the desk and came back later and was like, where am I right now? You can see here that this is highlighted in blue. And you can actually navigate to the other ones by clicking in this row. So now I've navigated into the federal database and so on. You can still use this drop down as well, but there are two ways to do it. I like this one because it shows me where I am at any time. I'd like to stop here and pause for any questions because we just went through pretty much a start to finish search where you start with looking up your keywords and your terms, and you take those into both the federal and charitable databases to really get a good idea about what's available, which ones you think might actually be relevant to your project, and then deciding from there kind of how to which ones to pursue. And I also wanted to mention too, now that I've said it, where are we? Can we go to the, I wanted to go to a specific profile again. So I'm just gonna click on one of these guys and open this one. So when we were in our search and it was showing us like 3 results, 78 results, when you click on one of those opportunities, it opens this profile like we've been in earlier. This is like where the narrative was on the left-hand side and all of their application information is on the right-hand side. And just like we saved our searches earlier, you can also save individual opportunities. So this has also gone to my dashboard. So when I show you the dashboard in a moment, we'll be able to see the saved searches that'll take us right back into the databases where we were, and also individual opportunities. Okay. Other questions? Let's see. Can you download your search group even though I saved it to the dashboard? Yes. I think so. I will show. I'll go into the dashboard in just a second. Is anyone else having hearing issues? There was somebody that mentioned that they were having volume issues.
I'm able to hear you just fine
Okay.
here.
Okay. All right. Well, this is it is being recorded, so if you're having any audio issues, you'll be able to access it later on as well. So let's go talk about the dashboard since we've gone through one example, and I'll show you where all of those different things ended up. Oh, wait, one more person asked a question. Kate says, I'm not seeing information regarding the number of grant awards per year and amount ranges in the same way as FSC Online. Does GrantStation offer at a glance information like that? I'm not totally sure because I haven't actually seen FSC Online, so it's hard for me to imagine what they have, but I have a feeling that maybe what you're looking for is going to be here on the dashboard. So let me see if that answers your question. Let's continue. So I didn't narrate this, but when you can access the dashboard from any page within GrantStation, it's always going to be up here at the top. So even if I'm inside one of the databases, it's still up here. So you just click this button and you'll be into the dashboard. So there are several different sections within the dashboard. We have projects where you can create your own project and then categorize or assign different grant opportunities into those projects. So just for an example, I will add a new project here. And this is an area that is providing you the opportunity to start thinking about your different sections of the grant. So there's the description, statement of need, budget summary, geographic scope, and you can add search terms and areas of interest here as well. But I'm going to save this for now, and it's going right here on the top and shows when it was created and last saved. Moving on to my saved criteria, I have a lot of saved criteria, but you can find the date when you saved it, and you'll be able to see where they are, and they're actually sorted in a descending order. So for instance, when I click on, I actually saved 2 criteria today. When I click on one of them, it takes me right back into the database with the same criteria that I had saved here. So like I said earlier, it's a really good idea to come in here to the dashboard and be checking out these saved views that you've made for yourself to see if they've changed, or if you want to tweak what is in this query that's going to work for you. It's a good way to search using the databases. So very similarly, there's the saved Grantmakers. And these are Grantmakers and opportunities that I have saved for myself. I saved the Adams Legacy Foundation today. It shows that this is the date that I saved it, was today. This is the last time that that profile was updated. It tells me that this was this is active, and I'm also able to. I'm actually automatically getting alerts. So another new feature that we have this year is email alerts for particular opportunities that you save. And I've actually been, you can see that I've saved a lot of opportunities, and I've just been curious like how the email alerts work. And frankly, I don't get that many because they're alerting you when something in the profile changes. So it would be whenever the profile is updated, you'll be getting an alert. And the profile would change if something in the criteria was changing in the grant, or if there is a status change, maybe it's gone from active to inactive, something like that. So I think that's a really great tool that you can use to help say like, oh, this opportunity something has changed. I better go check out this this different opportunity. And you can always turn off each of these alerts if there's too many changes, or if you just don't need this particular opportunity anymore. You can also unsave the opportunity if you don't need to see it here. And you can also add it to your plan, which is the next and last section I'll cover on the dashboard. So let me just add this really quick and then go over to the plan so you can see what that looks like. And this is really going to be a strategy page for you to be able to look at your current opportunities and decide what project to put them in. Because we made a project earlier, just a minute ago, we made a project called Homelessness in North Carolina. And each of these has been assigned a different project, priority, all this information. And then you'll notice that this one here that we just added now, the Adams Legacy Foundation, is blank. And that's because you have to edit it and assign those different things. So my project is homelessness in North Carolina. I can make my own priority and status. This is something you'll have to come back in and update each time. So I'll just say that I'm not yet started, but each time that I make progress, I'm able to come back here and see, and change that status, and then you'll be able to see how it compares to the rest of your ongoing opportunities as well. I can add the amount requested. This part can't be changed. And then the different dates are just for yourself and for your team to keep track of what your goals are. So for instance, I want to have my draft done by the end of the month. Maybe I'll submit it in February and hope for a decision at the end of March. And I will save that. And now going back down here to the Adams Legacy Foundation, I see here that this is the project that I've assigned it to. This is the priority, and this is my status, and you can see how it's different from my other opportunities that I've saved and put a status for. And yeah, that about covers the plan. So you can compare all the different opportunities that you have going on at the same time. Let me go check the chat. I feel like I've seen some questions pop up. Okay. Nancy asked for the Adams Foundation, can we see a listing of their grants that have been awarded? Not on our website, but I think the reason for that is just because they're also different and would have different privacy concerns. But I imagine that different foundations would want to share that information on their website. And you can access that from the Grantmaker profile. So I'm in their foundation since I just clicked on it, and this is their profile, and you can visit their website with that button. So right, so it doesn't, so the database does not capture, I don't think it captures the grants that the Adams Legacy Foundation has awarded, because they would have to report that back to us. And I don't see, it would be, all of them have different, like different requirements and different levels of privacy that they expect. So, but checking out their website, you'd be able to see that information, I think. Connie asked, oh, it's reported on the 990. Oh, you're right, Nancy. And the 990 is down here. So this, just pointing out again, I might have moved too fast. Here's the Adam Legacy Foundation. And scrolling down here, here is their 990. So there's their info. It says scroll down on that page and then click on the funder name. All right. Moving on to one more question. And Nancy, if you have more questions about the 990, I can also privately get back to you about that afterwards too. But Connie has asked, can coworkers share the same dashboard? And the answer is yes. You would have to log into the same account though. You'd have to have the same login credentials. But each dashboard is different and unique, so it kind of depends on what your strategy is as far as, do you really want to collaborate that much, or are you wanting to have your own views and make sure that those have a level of security about them, and that nobody is going in there and changing your criteria, etc. But yes, you can use that to collaborate. Let's see. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions about, specifically about navigating in the databases? Or the calendar part? Bonnie asked for the calendar tutorial. So going on to build strategy, this is the grant seeking calendar tutorial. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about though. Is this the tutorial that you were looking for? This is a tool that can help you decide and how to sort the different opportunities that you have. We actually have a decision matrix that you can use. There's a whole tutorial here about how to, and this is a sample, that you might assign these different numbers yourself and come to a decision about how to prioritize different opportunities that way and justify that to your team. But let's see what Bonnie says. Is there a calendar that our saved grants roll onto a calendar? Yeah, and I think you must have been talking about the dashboard where it shows the different saved grants. Yes. So let's see. Going back to your plan is really where you'll see these different dates that you yourself want to calendar. These are things that I put in myself that like I personally want to have my draft and when I expect my decision, but then down here are the application. This is the actual deadline, May 15th for the AARP. And so I think this is what you mean by the calendar area, but you have to assign, for instance, saved Grantmakers. This is each one of these is our particular opportunity, and you have to add it to the plan in order to see those multiple calendars. This one, actually, it doesn't show, it does, it shows you at a glance when their application deadline is on each individual opportunity, but going into the plan, you're able to see, if you utilize it, you're able to see actually 4 different dates. If you include the application deadline, the draft, this when to have it submitted and expected. Let me see. I'm reading one more question. Someone is asking about differentiators between, Bardsley is asking about different differentiators with GrantStation and other providers that are similar to us in providing different opportunities. And really the biggest way, the biggest difference with us is that we make sure that these opportunities are open and currently accepting any forms of applications. A lot of other services include any and every opportunity, and that's good, but you might end up with like 300 returns or a whole bunch of returns and do all this work to get down to this level where you've made your search and then come to find out, oh, they're not actually accepting applications right now. And so we take it upon ourselves with our research team to make sure to really try to save you time and only display opportunities that are actually accepting applications. These are really good questions, you guys. And we're coming up to the end of the hour, so I may have to address some of them offline. But I'm gonna keep reading them unless Kelly needs to interrupt me for any reason about any housekeeping items that you all have.
No, not you can continue and answer a few more questions.
Okay. Um, um, Nancy says, can you build plans by years? Or if you're a consultant, can you build a plan by client or even a plan by site-based locations? So can you build multiple plans like the one on the screen? Let's see. I guess I'm a little confused by Nancy's last question about different site-based locations. So we are on the plan page right now, and basically the purpose of it is to be able to compare at a glance the different projects that you have going on. And it's just kind of a way to make sure and manage your own time, manage or strategize about where you are in this calendar area, and make sure that that you're keeping all of them at the top of mind, not letting anything slip through the cracks. And the projects are made by saving individual opportunities into each project, and you can save multiple opportunities into one project. I hope that answers your question. Yes, as Liberty pointed out, you can sort some of these different categories by sorting the name of the grant maker as well. All right, we are at the top of the hour. This has just flown by, but I am always available for questions after the call. Our customer service is also available all the time, and we definitely do not want to just throw you in and say sink or swim. We have, like I showed you today, we have a lot of online tutorials, but we also have a lot of support that's coming from a real person that really wants to help you make the most of this tool.
Thanks, Julia. If somebody does have a question and they reach out to me, can I introduce you to them via email?
Yeah,
if that's
of course.
If it involves any of
this.
this.
That's great.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so yeah, like I said, everybody, if you do have questions of something, if you go in and start doing some research and come up with a question, just shoot me an email. It's Kelly with an I at grantprofessionals.org. I can get you connected to Julia, or you can contact GrantStation's customer service. They're fantastic. They're always very responsive. So yeah, we really appreciate you all taking the time coming and attending this today. We hope that you found it insightful. So again, thank you for your time. Feel free to shoot me an email if you have any questions, and we hope that you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.